This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, okay. We can start the class. Today we are going to discuss the topic on juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Previously it used to called as same in adult rheumatoid arthritis. And so you see nowadays rheumatological conditions are like increasing. Like previously they were very less, but nowadays that is not the entity. We have to be very cautious to give this diagnosis of arthritis even in a child. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very nice. I'll continue. So previously, these are the like missed entities. Nowadays, this is not that less common. This is also a common entity, and this is the most common rheumatic disease in children. Coming to all rheumatological disorders, comparatively with other rheumatological disorders, like other rheumatological disorders are like SLE, juvenile dermatomyositis, polymyositis. These are all other conditions. But out of all these, juvenile idiopathic arthritis is most common rheumatic disease in children. And also, this is one of the more common chronic illnesses in the children. This is not an acute entity. It persists together for months. So it is one of the commonest chronic illnesses. And usually this disease is like not a single entity, like it is like heterogeneous group of disorders that shares the typical clinical manifestations of arthritis. And exactly the etiology we doesn't know. One of the probable mechanism is autoimmune mechanism, and various genetic factors also include under this entity for juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So this is the brief intro regarding this. So coming into the topic proper, so the one of the chronic arthritis of the children. It is equivalent to juvenile chronic arthritis or juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, but the appropriate term is juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So it includes group of diseases that share the specific characteristics. This is the thing that you people all should know. What is an arthritis? It is said to be present if there is a swelling or effusion in a joint, or if there are any two of the following four features, like is there any limitation of range of motion of that particular limb, whether there is any pain, any tenderness, or any increased heat or warmth in that area. So to make a diagnosis, first of all, of juvenile idiopathic arthritis, should be present, like arthritis must be present to make a diagnosis of juvenile idiopathic arthritis, or else there is no point in naming the topic as juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So first of all, you people should know arthritis is like an intra-articular swelling should be there, along with the presence of intra-articular swelling. So that represents like a swelling or any effusion, like or any collection of fluid in that particular joint. Along with two of these following features should be there, like already discussed, limitation of range of motion, any tenderness is there, whether any pain on motion is there, increased heat or warmth on that particular joint. So these are the clinical characteristics to fit into the criteria of arthritis, and this should be the complaint before you diagnose a disease named juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So first of all, it may not be a primary condition or disease itself. It could be like a secondary to any other underlying illnesses, and most of the time it is our clinical examination based upon good history and physical examination would provide more diagnostic clues than indiscriminate laboratory tests. See, any autoimmune etiology, first of all we rely with our history followed by clinical examination, then we correlate with our laboratory findings. This is not a single entity with only lab parameters we could pick this disease. For suppose if the child is not having any other features or arthritis or something, when any other extra-articular manifestations and presenting with the typical laboratory findings of juvenile idiopathic arthritis, we cannot name it as idiopathic arthritis. So it is like collaboration of all the things, like examination should fit into that, history should be providing more of clues along with your laboratory parameters, then only we'll club all those things, then we'll name it as the particular entity. So first of all, we need to classify. So a convenient way to classify arthritis is based on the duration of illness at the time of presentation. So according to International League of Association for Rheumatology, the proposed definition is like age of onset should be less than 16 years and duration of disease should be more than 6 weeks. At least of 6 weeks should be there. So it is a chronic joint swelling, pain with functional limitation for at least 6 weeks of unknown cause that starts before 16 years of age. So juvenile, less than 16 years, chronic, at least of 6 weeks. That is the things you must remember. We already told to fit into the criteria of juvenile idiopathic arthritis, you people should have the clinical features of arthritis fitting into it. Already we discussed arthritis, that is intra-articular swelling, presence of any of the two following in those 4 parameters, like limitation of range of motion, any warmth is there, any pain on motion, or any tenderness is there. That is the thing. Later on we go with the classification in our later slides. That will be coming in your next slides. So for any disease, one should know what could be the reason, what is the cause. So it is an autoimmune disease of unknown etiology. It doesn't exactly fit. This could be the reason, but the probable mechanism is autoimmunity. You people all know what is an autoimmune. It is nothing but alterations in our both either cellular or humoral mediated immunity. Usually, like the T cells have a central role releasing pro-inflammatory cytokines, favoring a type 1 helper T lymphocyte response and all those things, finally resulting in synovial destruction or synovitis and everything. So you people must know this is an autoimmune disease. The common underlying manifestation is the presence of chronic synovitis. Coming to etiology, we already discussed out of all the rheumatological diseases, this is the most common entity and it is one of the most common chronic illnesses in the childhood. The prevalence is around 1 in 1000. It has 2 peaks, one at the age of 1 to 3 years and one at the age of 8 to 12 years. Usually girls are more affected more commonly than boys, but this in further we have classification in juvenile idiopathic arthritis. In that one entity, systemic arthritis, systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. In that arthritis, we doesn't have any sex predilection, like males are equal to females in that particular entity. But broadly, if at all a case of juvenile idiopathic arthritis, if you come across, it is usually more seen in girls. See, like any other autoimmune diseases, usually girls are more affected rather than boys. So coming to the pathophysiology, we all know this is an autoimmune response. So there is an improper imbalance between cellular and humoral immunity. With all those things, what happens exactly in that particular joint is systemic inflammatory process originating in the synovium or synovial fluid involving connective tissue, and it is characterized by destruction and proliferation of synovial membrane. At last, what is happening is damage to the synovial membrane. The antigens that are produced, like autoantigens or autoantibodies, whatever, they'll destruct the synovial membrane and leading to this synovitis. So phagocytosis produces enzymes within the joint that results in inflammation. Ultimately, collagen is destroyed over time and pannus formation occurs, resulting in narrowing the joint space. This pathophysiology is like any adult thing, like arthritis thing. What happens is synovial destruction resulting in collagen destruction. All the things happens resulting in the decrease in the joint space over there. Finally, it may result in joint destruction leading to ankylosis and deformity with loss of articulation joint motion. So obviously what will happen, ankylosis, tightening will be there and the joint space will be reduced and there is no place to have our movements over that particular joint. So finally there will be a limitation of motion of that particular limb. So automatically what will happen, like daily activities will be hampered. We cannot do regular activities with those arthritis limbs. It will be difficult in walking, difficulty in daily activities, like even we'll have like limb length discrepancies if these processes are happening before the end plates are getting closed. So all these are the adverse effects of this condition. So usually we doesn't expect what could be the remissions, and unpredictable exacerbations can also occur. Coming to the clinical manifestations, First of all, it is like arthritis should be there, that is entity. So articular and extra-articular. So juvenile idiopathic arthritis, it is not like only articular manifestations will be there. It is not the entity. Even we have extra-articular manifestations of this particular disease. Articular manifestations include joint swelling, joint pain, joint stiffness. Usually joint stiffness is more in the morning, and like gelling phenomena over a period of days gradually getting over, then these symptoms will get decreased. Joint warmth, restricted joint movements, and limping gait. These are the particular symptomatology limited to your articular symptoms or arthritis symptoms. This is a must to have a diagnosis of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. But the other features also we need to know, like and one more thing, usually the arthritis involves the large joints. The joint involved is usually knees. What happens is, like, initially there will be an accelerated growth will be there, but later on if this inflammation is going on, there will be premature closure of growth plate, resulting in shortened bones. So later on limb length discrepancy will be more prominent. Initial also there will be there, but initially there will be an accelerated growth of limb will be there. Later on the epiphyseal growth plate will be closed, resulting in shortened limb comparatively with the other normal limb. So extra-articular manifestations like malaise, general thing like fatigue, malaise, fever, rash, these are all could be there in this particular entity along with your articular features. So general things like fever, pallor, anorexia, loss of weight. Even we find some skin abnormalities like subcutaneous nodules. Rash will be there in systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. In psoriatic arthritis, we found psoriasis rash like silvery scales will be there. In vasculitis, palpable purpuras can be seen in not in all entities, but these are also like manifestations in a juvenile idiopathic arthritis of various entities. Usually the rash we see in systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Other manifestations like hepatomegaly one can come across, splenomegaly will be there, lymphadenopathy can be there, serositis, like serositis means in various systems like pleural effusion can be there, pericarditis will be there, ascites can be there, along with your joint effusion, and muscle atrophy and weakness can be there. Uveitis, this is the most common thing in oligoarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and also it is acute in enthesitis related arthritis. So if at all any child comes to you with fitting this age group of less than 6 years with more than 6 weeks of arthritis or articular symptoms, one should have all these features of general physical examination should be kept in their mind, and one have to examine these probable things. So the child may have rash, or the child can have subcutaneous nodules. These are all the clues that to come into a diagnosis. See, uveitis is not a simple thing. So uveitis is one of the cardinal feature of oligoarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So we can act early, and we can intervene early, and we can have a periodic screenings. So in an arthritis case, apart from your articular symptoms, extra articular symptoms will be there. So one should have a overall idea regarding all those features, so we can club into it and we can see all these extra articular features, even not only restricting ourselves only to the articular symptoms. So coming to the types of arthritis, these are the major classification. So International League of Association of Rheumatology classified rheumatoid arthritis into specific entities. These are the things: oligoarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis, polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis. In that group, it includes two more things. One is the rheumatoid factor positive juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and another one is rheumatoid factor negative juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Other entities are enthesitis related arthritis, psoriasis arthritis, and undifferentiated arthritis. So this is the broad classification. You must remember there is no option in skipping it. So oligo, poly, systemic, and the less common are enthesitis, psoriasis, and undifferentiated. So coming to the oligoarticular arthritis, oligo in this name itself. So few joints. So few What is that few? Means like it affects 1 to 4 joints during first 6 months of disease. In that we categorize even into subgroups of two types. One is persistent juvenile idiopathic arthritis, another one is extended juvenile idiopathic arthritis. What do you mean by persistent? So involvement of 1 to 4 joints. So it will be like 4 only, it will not extend. In extended disease, what happens is in initial first 6 months it is pertaining to 4 joints, but during the course of disease it involves more than 4 joints. That is the difference between oligoarticular persistent and oligoarticular extended. So two entities are there. So usually occurs in 50 to 60% of young people who have juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So out of all this classification, this is the most common type that involve the young people. So 1 to 4 joints, it again classifies into two types. These are all the things you people should know. So the same thing. What are the joints these involve? The same thing I already told you. I already discussed in their epidemiology part. It affects males more than females. Commonly, in overall view, juvenile idiopathic arthritis affects females more than males. We all know the large joints are usually involved, like knee, ankle, wrist, or elbow joints. It can be even associated with the eye disease called as uveitis, that is the extra-articular manifestation one should be knowing to evaluate periodic screening through slit lamp examination. And sir, and one more thing, usually isolated involvement of hip is almost never a presenting sign and usually suggests enthesitis related arthritis. So hip is also a large joint, that is the question you may ask, but the commonly affected joints are knee and ankle. 1 to 4 joints are involved, but usually if at all one joint is involved, knee joint is the most common thing. And out of these two entities, we have persistent and extended. This is the persistent. Comparatively, prognosis is better with persistent rather than extended. If the joints are involving continuously more than 4, usually that is associated with a worse prognosis. And in even that, like ANA positivity, anti-nuclear antibodies and autoimmune diseases will be there usually, but it is usually correlated with younger onset of disease, female sex, asymmetrical arthritis, and lower number of involved joints over time. And one more important feature is, if at all ANA is positive, the increased risk of asymptomatic uveitis will be more. And it requires periodic slit lamp examination. These are all the things you people should remember is like oligoarticular, two types are there, and 1 to 4 joints it involves, that is another point. And two classifications, persistent is with better prognosis, and we usually found uveitis in oligoarticular arthritis. These are more than enough for you people. Next is your extended, the same thing. Oligoarticular extended joints can affect even both large and small joints. After 6 months of this disease onset, this extends to further more joints. Till now we discussed the same thing. Next, coming to a next entity is polyarthritis. Poly, till now 1 to 4. So poly, 5 or more joints within the first 6 months being diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. In this also we have another 2 more entities, that is rheumatoid factor positive polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis and rheumatoid factor negative polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So rheumatoid factor positive, in that RF factor will be positive, in negative entity RF factor will be negative. So RF positive, this is common in young people over 10 years of age. Females are more common than males, the same thing. It affects both the small joints of hands and feet and large joints like knees, hips and ankles. It affects joints on both the sides of the body. This type of juvenile idiopathic arthritis behaves almost like adult rheumatoid arthritis. See, rheumatoid nodules, where you can find rheumatoid nodules are like extensor surfaces of elbows, knees, spine and over the Achilles tendon. Although unusual, are associated with more severe course and almost exclusively occurs in rheumatoid factor positive individuals. And also we can see anemia, significant fatigue can be observed, poor appetite with some weight loss can be seen, low-grade fever, and general feeling of being unwell one can find in polyarticular arthritis. Mm. And this is the polyarticular negative. It can occur at any age. Females are involved than males. Usually starts in many joints at the same time. Some young people only have polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis for a limited period of time, while others may have it for many years. This type of JA is more likely to last into adulthood. So these are the two entities. One is positive, one is negative. Positive, like we find RF after positive, rheumatoid nodules will be there affecting both small and large joints. More than 5 joints are involved, and females are more common than males. These are the things. In this, RF factor will be negative. General well-being will not be good in RF positive, like we find anemia, we find rheumatoid nodules and everything. So those are the entities. Till now we discussed oligoarticular, the types, polyarticular, the types. Next is your systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. Systemic, the same thing. One systemic term comes like characterized by arthritis, fever, rash. Systemic involvement is there, so you can appreciate other system involvement like spleen will be enlarged, liver will be enlarged, lymphadenopathy will be enlarged. In this specific entity, we find the characteristic fever defined as spiking temperature of more than 39 degrees centigrade. So fever will be there. Systemic, age of onset is 2 to 4 years, affects more than one joint with or preceded by a fever of at least 2 weeks duration. So to define the fever, what is fever in this entity is spiking temperature of more than 39 degrees centigrade, that is more than 102.2 degree Fahrenheit, occur on a daily or twice daily basis for at least 2 weeks. The duration, if at all, preceded fever duration at least of 2 weeks should be there, with a rapid return to normal or subnormal temperatures. The fever is often present in the evening time and is frequently accompanied by any one of the following. One is transient erythematous rash. The evanescent, like they are called as salmon colored lesions, classic for systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis. And one typical phenomena is like this rash is non-pruritic, it is like non-itching, migratory with lesions lasting for less than 1 hour. This is the one important entity for this evanescent rash, so it will disappear along with the enlargement of lymph nodes, that is the lymphadenopathy, fever, hepatomegaly, splenomegaly. The serositis entity we already discussed in our earlier slides, like serositis could be pericarditis, pleuritis and peritonitis. In this, we already discussed autoimmune disease. Females are more involved in males in all other entities, except in the systemic juvenile idiopathic arthritis, where boys are equal with girls. There is no sex predilection in this particular time. Usually spiking fever, I already discussed with you people. So fever occurs either once or twice in every day, and it touches the baseline during the same day. Joint symptoms begins within 6 months after the fever first appears. Same salmon colored lesions present over the chest or upper arms, thighs and other parts of the body. Swollen lymph glands are common. We can see hepatomegaly and splenomegaly. This is the rash. One particular thing is like I think you people heard the phenomena called as Kibner's phenomena, where if any superficial trauma or if any heat can also evoke this rash, so we can observe that rash at the particular point of time very clearly. This is the rash we observe in a case of systemic juvenile arthritis, but it is rare, but if at all, but this is the rash you can observe. I think I know this is a bit boring class, rheumatology class, but there is no other option for me to continue. Just till now we discussed a classification type. Now I want someone to tell what are there in the classification. That's all, not any other points, just to classify. I cannot pick single number, just whoever is interested, just tell me what is the classification till now we discussed.
Oligoarticular,
Very
polyarticular,
good.
systemic,
Yeah.
and
Okay. Shall I continue?
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
confusion is there, or shall I continue? I know this is a like boring topic and it is also dry topic. Only you people need to memorize, nothing else. So till now,
Continue.
who told I don't know exactly. Very nice. Oligarticular, polyarticular, and systemic. Till now we discussed with all the classification and all the things. Next is like enthesitis related arthritis. The next least common forms we'll discuss.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Okay, enthesitis arthritis. This is like inflammation in both the joints and as well as enthesis, which are the spots where tendons or ligaments attaches to the bones. This is the important thing. So usually the age of onset is 9 to 12 years. Diagnostic criteria is arthritis plus enthesitis should be there, along with two of the following should be there: presence or history of sacroiliac joint tenderness or inflammatory lumbosacral pain. Usually it involves the mid joints like sacroiliac joint, lumbosacral pain, like particularly related to vertebra. And positive human leukocyte antigen will be there, like HLA-B27 antigen is positive. Onset of arthritis in male is more than 6 years. In this entity also we find acute anterior uveitis. Uveitis is seen in oligoarticular as well as enthesitis related arthritis. So this is the important thing you people should remember, because if at all the case comes to your OPD or any emergency department with all these pains, one have to have your periodic screening of slit lamp examination to rule out anterior uveitis, because uveitis is not a small entity. It results in cataracts, even posterior synec formation and everything. So early intervention can have better outcomes. So anterior uveitis is also associated with enthesitis related arthritis. And usually we found history of ankylosing spondylitis, enthesitis, sacroiliitis, inflammatory bowel disease, Retter's syndrome, or family history of acute anterior uveitis. In history, we found all these things because HLA-B27 antigen positive will be there in all these conditions even. This is a vast entity, just you people remember, and arthritis or enthesitis plus any two of the following. That is more than enough. Males are commonly involved in females. In every entity, females are involved rather than males. In systemic, there is no sex predilection. In enthesitis, males are involved than females, often last into adulthood. Usually involves just a few joints in the legs. The hips are often affected. So I already told, isolated hip pain, one should suspect enthesitis related arthritis rather than oligoarticular. Usually oligoarticular involves ankles or knees or elbows, not hips. Enthesitis is most common around the knees, ankles, and bottom of the feet. Next entity is psoriatic related arthritis. So we know psoriasis is a skin disease. It is a scaly red rash that can develop on the scalp, behind the ears, on the eyelids, elbows. One second. Eyelids, elbows, knees, buttocks, or in the belly button. Some people with psoriasis may also have pits or ridges in their fingernails. This is typical general physical examination that we appreciate in the psoriasis case. So children or teenagers with psoriasis also have arthritis. This is called as psoriatic arthritis. Sometimes the psoriasis starts before the arthritis, but sometimes the arthritis begins before the psoriasis. So we cannot tell exactly what is the first thing. Either of the presentation can be there. A family history of psoriasis is an important clue to the correct diagnosis to name it as psoriatic arthritis. Psoriatic arthritis, age of onset is usually 7 to 10 years. We see arthritis with or without psoriasis because lesions will be there initially followed by arthritis, or arthritis will be there followed by psoriasis. With any of the following like dactylitis, nail pitting and oncholysis can be there. An important thing is family history of psoriasis, because in a first degree relative, one should not ignore the family history of psoriasis to diagnose this entity of psoriatic arthritis. So this is features of juvenile idiopathic arthritis subgroups. We already discussed everything. like oligoarticular, polyarticular, systemic onset, and spondyloarthropathies. And another entity is psoriatic related arthritis. So just briefly, I need to tell oligoarticular outcome will be excellent, like more than 90% of complete remission. Polyarticular, okay, good, more than 50% complete remission. Some risk of disability will be there. Systemic onset depends upon the extent of arthritis involved. Spondyloarthropathies, the outcomes are variable, we cannot predict. VIT significantly will be present in oligoarticular and enthesitis related arthritis. And sex predilection, we already gave systemic concept, no sex predilections. Enthesitis related, males are calmer than females. These are all the things to differentiate in a single table. So till now we discussed what is the epidemiology, what is the definition, what is the classification, what is the clinical features, and in particularly related to clinical features, what are all there. So before jumping into your laboratory diagnosis, just I want to tell you people, first of all, till in the initial slides only I discussed, this is that diagnosis essentially clinical, laboratory tests are usually supportive, okay, but for any disease one should know what are the differential diagnoses, because in our first slides we discussed this may not be a primary entity, it could be secondary to some other underlying causes can also be there, arthritis. So one must have idea about all the other rheumatological disorders like systemic lupus erythematosus. It could be juvenile juvenile dermatomyositis, sarcoidosis, vasculitis syndromes. Even acute traumatic fever can also present with arthritis and arthralgias. I think you people are well versed with all those things. Even post-viral arthritis are also more common, like Epstein-Barr virus, rubella, parvovirus, hepatitis B, HIV. All these things can also cause transient arthritis. So arthritis, this is not the only entity. Any arthritis need not be juvenile idiopathic arthritis. So one must have some other probable differential diagnosis of other diseases present with arthritis. Like till now we discussed, it could be viral etiologies, or it could be other rheumatological disorders, or it could be like bacterial infections, or it could be Lyme's disease, or just the simply osteomyelitis, or any suppurative arthritis, or toxic synovitis. These could be there. So just I want to give you the names, other causes of arthritis, one must know. In your exam, there is no point in writing all these things, just for information sake, I gave these things. So coming to the next step, we'll first of all, after categorizing clinically and after diagnosing clinical things, obviously we'll go for lab parameters. We'll do complete blood picture. What happens is we see anemia, and we appreciate increase in leukocyte count and increase in platelet count. Why increase in leukocyte and platelet counts are because they are acute phase reactants. Automatically in any rheumatological disorder, acute phase reactants will be raised. That's why leukocytosis and platelet counts will be elevated in this particular entity of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. ESR is also raised. This is also a marker of inflammation. We see the X-rays of affected joints, what is happening on to rule out any malignancies are there or not. Hemoglobin is usually microcytic anemia, and we found levels of around 7 to 10 grams per deciliter. That is the thing. And X-ray, what we see are like soft tissue swellings, and usually bone density will be reduced. We see osteopenias or any periosteal newborn apposition around the affected joints we see, and also loss of cartilage will be there. Various degrees of bone destruction and fusion one can appreciate. If at all X-ray of affected joint, sometimes cervical spine will be affected, where we see Atlanta axial subluxation can be there. But to pick all these things, only X-ray is not sufficient. Depending upon the condition, depending upon the areas where it gets affected, we need to have MRI spine also. The goals of treatment are and the other things are like anti-nuclear antibodies, and it helps in identifying the risk factors for uveitis and rheumatoid factor. Sorry, it is not fever. Rheumatoid factor to assess prognosis in polyarthritis, because in that there are two entities. One is the rheumatoid factor positive and rheumatoid factor negative. Usually rheumatoid factor positive entity, we we see the adult presentation. So to differentiate also, we need all these investigations. Others we have like complement levels, because activation of complement system will be there, and decreased in C3 and C4 levels will be there in some and some other entities that mimics this type of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. ASOT and all these things like autoimmune hepatitis also manifest in this way. So to rule out those things, we need to have liver parameters. Ferritin is another entity, because in macrophage activation syndrome, we found ferritin levels will be elevated. These are all your high-end entities. You need not remember everything. Just baseline investigations you need to write along with your HLA-B27 antigen, because it is positive in enthesitis-related arthritis, and synovial fluid aspiration, because any fluid aspiration is there. We'll see and we'll give for culture, because any chronic mycobacterial infection can also cause this cartilage destruction leading to arthritis, or any like in Lyme's disease also the same picture can be there. So that's why we'll have this synovial fluid aspiration. So you write only these things: CBP, ESR, X-ray, antinuclear antibody, rheumatoid factor, HLA-B27, and synovial fluid aspiration. Remaining all things only for information purpose, not for your exam. So these are the things. We found erosion of bones, and also you can appreciate joint space narrowing and fusion. Yeah. So coming to the treatment, till now we discussed all these things. So the last part is how we manage the case of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. See, there is no known cure. So this is the thing, this is the drug, so it will be settled. That is not the thing. It is a multidisciplinary modality of treatment we give here. Like, there are safe and effective medications to help and to control the disease. In what way these medicines help is like, they help in decreasing inflammation, they help in decreasing pain and swelling, make it easier for your child to stay active, and prevent or lessen damage to the joints, as well as increasing the quality of life. Whatever we can do to the child is like, we can decrease the disease process happening, and or else we can decrease the or progression of the disease, or you can halt the disease, but we cannot completely cure the disease. All this is the like multimodality approach, not with a single entity. So these are all the drugs, NSAIDs, like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs to relieve inflammation. The commonly used drugs are naproxen, ibuprofen, indomethacin. And the next is next entity is steroids. We use steroids, prednisolone and methylprednisolone. If at all the response doesn't come with these drugs, we often take the help of disease-modifying anti-rheumatic drugs. Those are like methotrexate, sulfasalazine, hydroxychloroquine, and all these things. The other entities are biological agents. What are these biological agents? Like tumor necrosis factor alpha inhibitors, interleukin 1 inhibitors, interleukin 6 receptor antagonists. We take the help of all these drugs. So first of all these drugs help in reducing the inflammation and reducing the pain and swelling. You need not memorize individual drug and dosage, just you memorize the names. So these are the drugs. You just write it down, the names of NSAIDs we use, corticosteroids, names like prednisolone, methylprednisolone. Next is disease modifying anti-rheumatic drugs. That's all. So I already discussed, not only doing the just giving the drugs, that is not the only entity. Here we take the help of physiotherapy, because, and one more thing is, because automatically pain is there, limp is there, the child will not walk. This will never help. So avoid prolonged immobilization. Anytime prolonged immobilization is not at all good. It further aggravates your disease process. So strengthens muscles. What happens with the physiotherapy is, it strengthens the muscles, improves and maintains the range of movements, and also it improves balance as well as cardiovascular fitness. So one must advise physiotherapy to this entity of juvenile idiopathic arthritis. We discussed uveitis in conditions where we see most common in oligo. So all the patients must be referred to the ophthalmologist for uveitis screening and to have regular follow-up. Next is nutritional therapy. We found osteopenia and osteoporosis. So we need to give supplementations with calcium and vitamin D, and also ensure the child to take appropriate protein and calories. Next are orthotics management, where if the child is debilitated, unable to move in systemic or in polyarticular arthritis, we take the help of splints and foot orthotics may be recommended. Now the simple measures can also help, like heat treatments, massage and cold treatment. These also will help in some conditions. So finally, after grading, after defining, after having investigations, and particularly pertaining to this diagnosis and after management, the next important thing is what is the prognosis? What can you explain to the parents regarding the prognosis of the disease? It is very important. It depends upon the type. We already discussed oligoarticular outcomes will be good. Polyarticular, it is moderate, like only 50%. Systemic and enthesitis related arthritis, we cannot. It depends and it is variable. And also, one must ensure properly this is not the acute event, this is a chronic event. So future management one also should be discussed with the parents, like regarding school presence, and also regarding everything, not like taking only drugs, that is not the entity. So we have to give overall idea, and also we need to tell regarding the adverse effects of even drugs, and drug compliance is also more important, because it takes months to years together to treat the case or to prevent the progression of the disease. That is very important. Sometimes it may even leads to permanent disability, like only bedridden or wheelchair ridden. That is also should be kept in mind, and we have to appropriately counsel the parents. Even psychosocial adaptation is also will be affected, because in any chronic entity, so many psychological problems will be coming across to the child, because that is a running and jumping time. You cannot expect a child to be sitting in a chair. So these are all the expected complications for a child or even caregivers or a parent. So one must adequately counsel and explain the prognosis of the disease. That is the end of your class. Any doubts? I know it is a bit exhaustive class and it is also dry topic. I tried myself to confine to make it as simple to write in your examination. If any doubts are there, you can ask me. Only 160 members are there. Why? Any problem?
No,
Any
ma'am.
doubts? Shall I leave the class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any doubts are there? You can ask in me in the group, or you can directly ask me. No issues. Thank you.
Thank you.